Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
It's
Good,
going.
good. Let's see. Somebody else is
Probably my AI.
Oh, you're okay.
That guy never leaves me alone.
Right. He never
Robot wants in.
sleeps. I know. It's so
Yeah.
funny. So what platform do you use for your AI?
Funny enough, I don't remember signing up for this thing, but I guess I opted in at some point. But the notes are fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, like from taking tone, like tone of the call, who was the decision maker on the call. I mean, really, it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's scary.
I mean, and then it emails the notes to everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't get my kids to listen to me, and
Oh yeah.
this thing is all about me. But
You're gonna trade them
so
for your
look,
note
I
taker.
would, and a ton cheaper for sure. Um, and the kids, and this note taker, is from Zoom, right? So whenever I'm on a Zoom call, it's whatever. What can you do?
Yeah. All right. Well, let me give you the official BeerNet Radio welcome. Today, I'd like to welcome Brian Rosen, chairman of InvestBev, the largest private equity company focused on Bev Alc and CPG. And we have come to know InvestBev by their having backed disruptive intoxicating beverage companies from JuneShine and Cann to Renai. Am I saying that correctly? Renai?
Renee,
Renee. Okay. I didn't have to try that hard.
as
And
long as you don't have to say it right, just buy it right.
yeah, that I could do. And more. And then, as well as you guys have invested in e-com heavies like Speakeasy and Reserve Bar. And then, most recently, in the non alc space, Lucky Energy. So, welcome, Brian.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Okay. So, you've been in the industry for a long time. And yeah, I was looking at your LinkedIn and I mean, you have a ton of experience. You're a multi-exited founder in the bev space and beyond, former CEO of Sam's Wine and Spirits, partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers before, and much more. So, can you go through that and tell us what led you to this point?
Yeah, well, I like what would possess you to be in a lifetime of booze?
Right. You look great, you know?
Uh, so my grandfather, my family in general, was the first liquor license handed out after Prohibition in Chicago, the very first.
Okay.
Um, we that liquor license handed out from Al Capone himself, I would add, uh,
Okay.
turned into a saloon, turned into a retail liquor enterprise, which became the biggest grossing liquor store in the country at 100 million. And then we expanded all over Illinois and distributed in 17 states. When I came up through that kind of that channel, retail off premise. Um, from there, I sold the company. When I was in my early 30s, I went to PricewaterhouseCoopers and I was hired there to create the adult beverage division for them, which I did. Made partner, left a couple years later and founded a company called BevStrat, which I grew and then sold to another private equity firm when I was in my 40s. And here I am, believe it or not, in my 50s and have got my third enterprise, which is InvestBev. InvestBev is, as you had rightfully called out, the largest kind of ALC only or kind of vice only private equity firm in the country. We manage about $500 million um, across five different funds, one credit fund, one insurance fund, and advisory services and acceleration. We're headquartered in Chicago. And we are a team of beverage people who really are vocal about the industry and where it's going and how to participate in it and or how to run from it. Um, but we're advocates for the small brand. We're advocates for the independent supplier, and we're not afraid to call bullshit when bullshit happens.
Yeah. Yep. Who is your closest competitor? Like who's your competitive set? Is it just do you have one or are you kind of in your own lane?
Yeah, I don't know. And
Yeah.
that's not ego talking, although some could confuse the two. I really don't know because we do a lot of different things.
Mhm.
And so we're part equity, we're part private credit. We have an accelerator, we have advisory services from my days at PwC. Um, I don't know who competes because this industry, as everyone knows and your listeners know, it's so competitive and it's very specialized. So I don't think traditional private equity wants to get involved because it's a shit show. You
Mhm.
really have to know a lot about it to be able to capitalize on the arbitrage that exists every day. And so I don't know about competition. I know that I have never I've made a whole career of not knowing who I'm competing against because I'm always competing against myself.
Mhm.
And so if I put a target on someone's back, I don't know if that helps me. It could probably poison me with, like working for the wrong reason, working
Right.
to be bigger than someone as opposed to helping someone. And that's just not what we do.
Now, this may be a stupid question, but you said 500 million total company. Is that different from the fund, or is the fund about 500 million?
So no, no, no. So what I refer to is really assets in play here. So
Okay.
on the equity side, we manage between 250 and $300 million every day, and that's made up of 61 different brands, $100 million in raw distillate,
Hmm.
and that's investor money that's come to us that we then deploy out. In credit, we manage another 100 million, which is us lending capital into the industry.
Right. Okay.
And then insurance is a $70 million vehicle that where we insure the assets that we
Hmm.
lend into. So like there's a lot of these kind of interconnected silos, if you will, and that really makes a kind of a grossed up number of about 500 million or so.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, so we do.
Well, yeah. Well, let's talk about the investments. I mean, how and where do you go about looking for investments, and what trends are you looking at? Who do you kind of trust for leads?
Who do you trust for leads? Great question. Who do you trust is you could just end the sentence there. Um, you know, I while I have a ton of experience and I have, my undergrad and my graduate degrees and all of that kind of jazz, I really trust most my gut, and I really trust most regular visits in market, spending an afternoon in a wine shop, a big box wine shop, and watching foot traffic, watching what people are gravitating towards. I will regularly go to on-premise accounts and ask a bartender the top 10 things he's pouring or she's pouring. Data is great, but data, if as you know, Jordan, data is in reverse. You're looking backward. Real time is what I see in the market. So I look at my own life experience, I mentioned earlier, I'm 55 years old. I'm drinking less. Not, I mean, I just don't have the desire to go out and get wasted, but I'm drinking more cannabis beverage. I'm drinking more or gummies, or I'm drinking more non-alc. What One of the things people say to me all the time in podcasts and other kind of interviews is that it's the sky, it's binary people. People are drinking less, the industry is failing. That's this binary thing. And it's not binary. It's people are not drinking less. Your listeners should know that. What's happening is they're drinking different. That's what's happening. There's still a 4.6% growth rate in the adult beverage industry. But what's growing is non-alc. What's growing is cannabis beverage. What's growing is zebra drinking, if you're familiar with that term. What's growing is better for you drinks. Like we own JuneShine, like hard kombucha, or we own Willie's, that
Hmm.
CBD hemp deal, right? It's growing like crazy. But what's not growing is vodka. What's not growing is Miller Lite. And so people read the headlines, but they really need to see the bylines. So when I look at what's happening in the industry, I look at my own life as a barometer, being a lifelong prognosticator. I drink less, so I'm geared towards more non-alc. I'm geared towards more um, uh, um, cannabis beverage or hemp-based beverage. My peers that I hang out with socially, the same thing. Because what's more important to an aging demographic is getting up the next day to work out as opposed to getting blitzed the night before. It's more important to be able to get up than, you know what I mean? Because you've had your good times in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s. Now you want to be healthy because everyone's preaching longevity. Everyone's talking about Blue Zone. Everyone's talking about the what's most important is building muscle through Ozempic. All of these things. So you have to be able to kind of extrapolate all this external data and then create an investment thesis around it. Now, that being said, I'm not a Mensa, right? I'm no big brilliant. I do have people in my office that are reading Nielsen, are reading scan data, are looking at IWSR. And we're mirroring my guttural understanding of the market every day and going to shows and trade shows, etc. We're mirroring that with hard data, and then we're forming a thesis on that.
Yeah. Okay, so your gut kind of points you to a brand, and then maybe you start talking to that brand. What are the musts of what they need to for you and your firm to say, okay, let's do something.
Well, I have a must that is not always met well, which is you make the founders take predictive index tests and make them take personality tests
Hmm.
because founders, and it's not always met favorably, I would add, um, but founders are founders for a reason. They're stubborn, they're aggressive, they no doesn't always mean no.
Mhm.
And so that personality, while it's great to found a company, is not great to take direction, right? Those are bifurcated personality traits. So the key for us is to find a founder who also is willing to say, hey, I need help. Or a founder that's saying, I want you for more than money. Because if a founder wants InvestBev for money only, I'm check the box out. Check the box out. I'm gone. And my personality is such, for right or wrong, is I will get up out of a meeting and say, I'm out. I'm not investing. I don't chase. And a founder who's got to be able to take criticism. So I look first and foremost at the ability of the founder to manage strategic capital, not just capital, because we take active roles. Because at InvestBev, we have accounting, finance, HR. We like to give direction. We have 15 people in our office that are from Bacardi and Dewar's and Diageo and Campari and then more that are from like finance, right? From Citadel and Wells Fargo and PNC and other equity firms. And so if you're just money, that's what we would call dumb money. If you want smart capital, then we're a great choice. So I look for that in a founder. The second thing I look for is multi-state growth that's not through a 3PL. It's got to be through traditional distribution, meaning that it can't be this whole thing where I'm on some, I'm not going to, there's no need to say names. I'm on some web-based three-tier compliant something, right? Or I'm in a 3PL that we don't have a sales force, but we make you legal. You know, I don't want that because that implies extra capital in the sales team. So that's critical. You got to be with one of the bigs, whichever ones are left by the time we air. You know, that's important to us. What's also important to us is that your brand or your category is not what was hot, it's what is hot. Not plain and simple. There's no more flavored vodka trend.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Gin has been popping for years, and you said it earlier about Renee. Renee, we like, which is a great. It's a gin out of London made with French grapes. It's founded by the brother of Emma Watson from
Oh,
Harry
Harry
Potter.
Potter.
Right,
Yeah.
showing my age. Um, and and so this guy's a scrapper. He's a scrapper and he's got a great brand. And gin will pop. When will it pop? Who knows? It will pop like bourbon. It will pop like tequila. But I want to have a name brand in the market when it does. And so
Yeah.
that's where Renee comes in. Sachet is a non-alc brand that we're invested in. Another example. Everyone is now has to have a non-alc brand on their home bar. You have to. When you entertain, you have to have something non-alc there. It was never like that when I was growing up in retail. There was no mention of non-alc. And I will tell you that in my fridge here, I've got a six-pack of Athletic Brewing. It kind of sits
Same.
there, but I have
Yeah.
it. That's the thing, right? I'm trying to go where the puck is going,
Mhm. Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
not where it is. And so a lot of that together is just kind of fuels our thesis.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And having gone through your portfolio and looking at what exactly you guys have, I think Renee is a great example because it's not just gin, it's a very particular gin. It's made with French wine grapes. So it's kind of like not a dichotomy, but something almost like a unicorn, right? It's definitely different. What did you guys see specifically, if you can, in JuneShine, in Cann, that set those things apart in big categories like, RTD or I mean, now there's a ton of brands in D9 too. So what
Yeah.
in particular made those so special? Not that they aren't special, but I'm curious, to you.
Yeah. So uh, we always have to have exit in mind.
Yeah.
We have fiduciary responsibility to invest our money or we can get it back. So we don't provide startup capital. We don't provide seed capital. We don't provide venture capital. We provide growth capital. So when I look at Cann, and the interesting thing about Cann, which is en fuego, as they say,
Yeah.
um, and,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it really is. And what made Cann really explode is D9. And then you have this week in Texas, they vetoed the bill, which is a great sign globally or nationally, I should say. And Cann was a great brand when it was THC,
Mhm.
which it still is. When they were able to produce in Delta 9, margins went way up. And we were always kind of hedging that way. We, there's always, it was always THC and it was always CBD. And now it's CBD is a much higher part of sales than THC.
Mhm.
And it's the number one SKU in Minnesota, in Illinois. It's on every end cap at Total. You can get it at the CVS down the street here, where I am in Chicagoland. And it it you bet on the team, you bet on the category. I bet on my own personal consumption habits. Not that I'm not a panacea, but I know a little bit about a little bit. And so I kind of like to bet that way. What we saw in Cannes was great founders as well.
Mhm.
Smart guys, Jake and Luke, um, good operators, and guys who fucking hustle, who are on the road, who are in a van down by the river, selling their stuff, right? Selling their goods and not taking no for an answer. And so those are positives. In JuneShine, we saw no different. Two guys, um, uh, Forrest is one of the guys, and I'm losing the Greg is the other.
Greg.
Greg, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those guys were smart. And then right after we got involved, we had a chance to buy Flying Embers, which we did. Then we had a chance to partner with Willie's, which we've done. Smart guys that are chasing the ball, right? And workaholics, guys who write long emails at 3 in the morning. I can't tell you how much that means to me as an investor. Guys that don't know what 9 to 5 means, guys that are on the road and thoughtful about their brand. Um, as a founder of multiple companies myself, it takes one to know one, right? And so if I look at someone, I say, you got what it takes to be a successful brand entrepreneur or entrepreneur, um, I'm going to back you. I'm going to back you in what you're doing. And so those two specifically, they're both market leaders. They both had great founders. They both had multi-state distribution. They were both in burgeoning categories, one being cannabis, one being gut health or better for you drinking. Um, and those are great bets as it relates to Speakeasy and Reserve Bar,
Mhm.
which are active in both. Speakeasy we got in many years ago. Josh was Josh Jacobs, a great founder, an aggressive founder, a smart founder, and he sold the company to Flaviar. Did a great job, and now he's at Flaviar. And then Flaviar is a great company, of which we own a piece of too now. Um, and Reserve Bar the same. Solve for something had Southern Wine and Spirits is a major investor in them, so you have to think, well, where are they going to get their brands? Well, they're going to get them through Southern, right?
Mhm.
That's a great relationship. Silver Lake Partners is a global private equity firm. It makes my 500 million look like a thimble in the ocean, and those guys backed it for tens of millions of dollars. So, some of these things, like the Reserve Bar specifically, you're guaranteed foot traffic if you put a store next to a Starbucks, right? So I'm guaranteed the research is done to some extent if Silver Lake is the capital partner before InvestBev. And so sometimes you just got to sit back and take a seat on the bus. You don't have to drive the bus every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned this a little bit ago, but obviously you always have exit in mind, right? And so, yeah,
Always.
we always talk about, or we did back in the heyday of craft when they would take any PE money, like, oh, well, you only have 5 more years to live, basically. So
Yeah.
how do you guys look at that?
How do we look at
Which,
pushing towards exit?
how long your window is typically, or does it really vary?
Well, it varies. What people don't understand, that aren't in finance necessarily or aren't in this world is that the window that a private equity firm gives to a brand or any investment when it makes the capital contribution is dictated by a few things. One of which being when is the private equity have to return capital back to the LP,
Mhm.
back to the limited partner. So sometimes my schedule that I put on my capital is not dictated by my belief in the brand, but it could be dictated by when I got to return capital to an investor. So any founder out there that's listening to your show should really ask the private equity firm that's going to invest, what is the fund life that this capital is coming from, and when is the investment period over? Critical questions, because that will dictate how much pressure you're going to be under as a founder. And
Mhm.
I will tell you, having sold two companies to private equity firms, that pressure is real. Like Nexium, Heartburn real, right? Like weight gain, Ozempic real. And the effect of having professional money in your business, if you're not prepared for hyper rocket growth, is crippling. So again, when I look at these founders, you've got to know that it may not be Brian Rosen who is putting the pressure on, but it will be someone from my team who is actively kind of behind your curtain, right? And asking and pushing and demanding. And if you don't want that and you want to plod along, have at it. But that then you don't want to have private equity investment.
Right, 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 right. That's it makes sense. And it sounds like, growth is expensive too, right? So when you take that money and you have that rocket ship growth, that's going to be expensive too, right?
Expensive for whom? The brand?
For the brand, yeah. And also I guess you guys, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
invest like if you're a brewer, you have to invest in steel, right? Like you
Yep.
have to have inventory, like more inventory to service the demand and stuff like that. And so,
All the above. And what's the biggest pressure that comes with professional money a lot of times is reporting, um, reporting back to us.
mhm,
Or any private equity firm, a lot of entrepreneurs don't have systems in place. They've got a great product, they've got a great backbone, meaning they work their ass off, but they don't have monthly reporting packages. They don't close their books monthly. They don't do the things that I require for any private equity firm worth their salt. Remember, I'm not an individual investor. I'm not a guy
mhm,
that is a friend of your dad's and said, "Hey, can I borrow? Can I put up? Will you invest 100 grand in my brewery?" That's not what's happening here. We're an SEC registered company. We are an RIA. We have reporting standards that get monitored by our auditors. It, and we will put pressure on you, again, professional money. We will put pressure on you to get the deliverable of the reporting that we need to be successful. And that's hard for some entrepreneurs. And I'll give you an example. We've got a great exploding company in Pilot Project. Pilot Project is a brewery or brewery incubator, if you will, in Chicago. We found them they had one brewery on Elston Avenue in Chicago. And then after we got involved, we bought the old Pabst Blue Ribbon Brewery in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, just this week, we opened a tasting room across from Wrigley Field in Chicago. He's doing tens of millions of dollars in revenue, made up of tasting revenue, of sales, of distribution revenue, and of incubation revenue. And the whole business was run on QuickBooks,
wow.
which is great, which is great. But at some point, anyone who gives you professional money is going to say, we need a reporting package. We've got obligations too. So it's a slippery slope. Generally speaking, if to go to really the root of your question, the brand owner who takes professional capital, the clock is usually ticking about 5 years.
Mhm.
About 5 years. You're going to work your ass off for 5 years, and either you're going to implode or explode.
Yep.
Only two options.
Yep.
If you explode, you'll be sold. If you implode, you'll be written down and you'll never hear from the firm again. And if you stay status quo, you will just stay status quo. And
Mhm.
as the fund nears its lifeline, they will pay less and less attention to you and you'll be on your own.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
So two options, really, implode or explode. And that should be a
Yeah.
t-shirt. I should have that t-shirt made.
You should.
I should. I
You
should really should go to Dollar T-shirts and get implode or explode. Which you want to be?
It's
No, we're
funny
not.
you say that, Brian, because I swear to God, on this pod, I'm like, we need a merch store attached to this pod for the things that we come up with on the pod, and I always want a shirt of it. Always.
Always, always. I have more T-shirts than I ever care to wear, but I'm gonna maybe that's how we can work on post call, like
There you go.
a little more shop with Shopify.
I love it. Exactly. Well, one more, and then I'll let Jordan get his meat hooks in too, because I'm bogarting here. But I'm curious how much more dry gunpowder you guys have, so to speak. I mean, I'm sure you're shopping around right now. You're looking right now, and what white space
Yeah,
is even left for you to invest in? What's top of mind?
yeah. So we're sitting on about $200 million or so of dry powder, if you will, what you call dry gunpowder, but it's dry powder. Just what am I looking at? It's a tough time in beverage, right?
Yeah.
Because the headlines are scary. And I said earlier, the headlines are scary, the bylines are real. So I don't believe in all the headline stuff, but I do read the bylines. And we are moving to Lucky Energy.
Yeah.
It is a good segue, right? Is not my first rodeo. And so our movement to Lucky is a statement we made to the marketplace that we are expanding to the broader CPG world because we feel that the growth right now is slower than we hope
Mhm.
in adult bev. So even today, Mark Brown, which is an industry
Yep.
newsletter, talked about energy, the only category growing. And TD Cowen put an email out today on it too, coincidentally. Um, Energy is growing. RTD is growing. D9 is growing. Cannabis bev is growing. Bourbon is contracting. Vodka, all but dead. Gin is marginally up. Tequila, flat. If not only flat, but it's got a agave surplus in Mexico, which is going to bring prices down to the negative.
Mhm.
Um, so my capital is going to be in those categories. And I will also share a philosophy we have at the firm, which is bet the horse race, don't bet the horse. Remember that 5% of brands fail.
Mhm.
That's a fact. So 5% succeed. Yet they take 100% of our money, right? So I'm betting 100% of millions for 5% success rate. Whereas if I buy something more pick and shovel, if I buy a manufacturing plant, if I buy someone who makes corks, if I buy someone like BevSource, which is a compliance and kind of ingredient company, if I buy those kind of things, then I'm betting on the horse race. And I can tell you one thing, every day at 2 o'clock, the horses race, right? So you're guaranteed the horse race. You're not guaranteed who the winner is. So we've moved away from, I love speaking like in these analogies, but we moved away from betting the horse, picking the right horse. I rather just bet in general the horse is going to run. Any horse is going to run in the race. So that would be manufacturing. That would be ingredient companies. That would be formulators. That would be aluminum can manufacturers like Ball Can.
Yep.
Things like that are super interesting to me right now with the spare capital that we have left.
I wanted to go back to Cann and JuneShine. It sounded like you made those investments before they got into intoxicating hemp. So, was there any trepidation with them getting into that, or were you just like, go for it?
Well, in Cannes specifically, hemp was just a drawing board thing. It was always THC. And when we got involved, and the issue also became the opportunity. In THC, because of federal law, you have to have your production facility in the same place where you have your goods that are sold. That's the law, the same state.
Yeah.
So if I'm selling in Illinois, I've got to be made in Illinois or New York or California, whatever it is. And so that's a margin hit, right? And a lot of these brands are sold on margin, gross margin. So when we started to really go into CBD and hemp, it doubled the margin, doubled it.
Mm.
It let them have a manufacturing plant, just by example, in Illinois, but then you get Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. So your margin goes way up because your distribution arm goes more broad based on one manufacturing facility. So that was timing more than brilliance, to be honest. Um, I humbly offer that. It was a good investment before, it became a stellar investment after. With JuneShine, I was always trolling Whole Foods and watching the Alc Bev aisle in Whole Foods and what people were buying. And they were buying Hayo and they were buying kombuchas and they were buying gut health lemonades and all these different things. And so when I saw kind of the beeline traffic, then I said, okay, um, now I know what they're buying. And then you got to go a step deeper and say, what specific brand are they buying? And if you ever want to know what's going on in a business, ask an employee. Just ask an employee. They will tell you. They'll volunteer. Yeah, everyone's buying this, or people hate this, or this is always returned. They will volunteer a full, they'll throw up due diligence for you, to be honest. And so we did that. And when you do it enough times, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Fresh Market, um, Specs, Total,
Mhm.
Bevmo, whatever, if once the answers become the same enough times, it gives you a direction. And so JuneShine came out of that. And when we got to them, they were about just short of 100 million in valuation. And then so we invested at a slightly lower val than that. And then subsequently, we bought Flying Embers, and then subsequently Willie's came on board, which Willie's is doing multi-millions of dollars a month in sales. Um, and so again, it's a combination of timing and gut and data and no. And look, if you're gonna, I mean, I hate to, I know I talk in analogies and my team laughs at it, but it's easy for people to understand. You're gonna touch the ball if you're on the field. Period, on stop, right? If you're on the baseball diamond, the chances of you getting the ball hit to you are far greater than if you're in the stands. And so we just want to be on the field. And in both of these situations and others, we just want to be on the field. And we've been lucky enough to find ourselves not in the dugout, not in the bleachers, but smack dab, shortstop. And we get a lot of looks at the ball at that point.
Well, it seems like you're betting more on categories, right, than particular. It's like you said, it's easier to bet on the race than the horse. Like I know
Sure.
this trend is building, so we definitely want to invest in this trend, right? Most of your portfolio is pretty premium. Are you ever interested in any sort of less premium plays?
Less premium in our eyes is very susceptible to the weed movement.
Hmm.
Period. End stop. When you want to get a buzz on, you're going to switch a gummy for Michelob Ultra. You're not going to switch a gummy for a Macallan 12-year-old.
Hmm.
Totally
Yeah.
different experiences. You're going to make a choice, generally, I'm speaking in the general sense. You're going to make a choice between a six-pack of Miller Lite and Septiva. And you'll make that choice, but you won't make the choice between Septiva and Renee Gin,
Hmm.
between a mixology program. It's just a different, if you're going to spend the money on a premium brand, you've made that choice. So I feel as a thesis that the more premiumization you have in your portfolio, the less susceptible you are to the growing and ever-growing cannabis movement. I'm not the one that should be scared. Who should be scared is Coors, Miller, Molson, Bud. They should be scared because no one is saying, "Oh my God, Miller Lite, thank God. I love it." They're not, no one's saying that. It's just a generic, it's a take-home beer. It's
Yeah.
what it is. It's a throwaway. And I'll give you a real life example. My son, who's now 24, when he turned 21, I use Macallan a lot, but I gave him a bottle of Macallan 12-year-old, hey kid, enjoy. Um, when I turned 21, my dad gave me a six-pack of beer.
Hmm.
The difference is that the market has moved towards premiumization. And this is a combination of wealth, uh, the wealth disparity of wealth, and a combination of Instagram, TikTok, and social media. Um, what you're seen with is who you are, right? What you're photographed with is who you are. So again, no great party ever started with, I was drinking Miller Lite and, right? I was drinking Opus One and that's kind of how it moves. So those premium brands, to your point, uh, aren't as susceptible to market shrink as I think generic as Absolute is, and Stoli, and some of the generic beers, and um, Tanqueray, and Cuervo Gold. No one's talking Cuervo Gold. They're talking Casamigos.
Mm.
No one's talking Tanqueray. They're talking Hendrix, right? People are not talking. They're talking Gumball Head. They're talking um, Stonecutter IPA. They're not talking, and that's just, and the Nielsen show this. This is not like a Brianism where I'm like pontificating. This is the Nielsen show all this. And so to answer your question, very long-winded, which I tend to be, is I don't think we'll go low brow,
Mm.
low tier. I don't think there's an exit value there, because when you invest in a generic product, you're very, very, very price sensitive.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
we've got brands that are, um, we got pitched a brand that said we're the better well drink, like the well
Hmm.
of the bar. We're the
Yep.
best well vodka. Great. No one's asking for better shitty vodka.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean that's really the thing. No one's
Unless
asking.
the brand name is Better Shitty Vodka. That's a phenomenal brand name.
That's our next shirt,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
But that's the real thing. No one says, "Hey, I'll have a vodka soda." Okay, then
Yeah.
no one. I promise you, no one says, "Oh, what's the vodka in my vodka soda?" It's the
Yeah.
shitty thing in the well.
Yeah.
So for a guy to say to me, "We've got a better well vodka, gin, tequila, rum," that's great,
Mhm.
but the consumer's not asking for it, and the on-premise account's not asking for it. So who's your audience?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, so those are things we see all the time, and we try and tell people, you may found the opportunity, but you've got to be accepted in all three tiers to be a real opportunity: retail, distributor, and supplier side, and that's
Yep.
hard to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my last one, and then throw it back to Jay, because you've given us a great amount of stuff and a great amount of time. How do you distinguish between a trend and like a true movement in the market?
I don't think you can. I think that the difference from my perspective is, if it's a trend, get in and get out quickly.
Hmm.
If it's a movement, put more dollars into it. But you don't know it right away. That's why a lot of these brands that come to us for capital say, how are you on bolt-on investments? Which means, do you come back into your investment with more capital?
Hmm.
And so the answer is trend all day. Fad, no chance.
Hmm.
And we also write, some of the deals we write are tiered investments. So if I commit to you $20 million, say, I may only give you 3 million to start, and then put some KPIs around that, so I don't get caught investing 20 million in a fad. I may lose 3 million, but I'm not going to lose 20 million. And we've put some downside risk protection into our deals that try and protect the firm against trend versus fad.
Hmm.
That's a
Yeah.
great question, by the way.
I just want to cap things off. You've been talking about your field research, and, we were talking about how people are tending to drink less, but everyone has their vices, right? So, where do you think people might be going to? Is it intoxicating hemp, or is there some other type of intoxicating beverage, intoxicating
Yeah.
consumable that you see people kind of gravitating to?
Mushrooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I think it's D, all the above. And I don't think it's one thing specifically. I think that the reason why I'm not fearful about liquor at all going away. People have said to me, I did a thing for Barron's a few weeks ago, and they're like, "Oh, is liquor the new tobacco?" It's not, because liquor is social lubricant. We're social creatures. And every time we get together, birth or death, you're drinking something. Religious event, you're drinking. Party, you're drinking. A sporting event, you're drinking. Concert, you're drinking. Cigarette, and there's no secondhand
Hmm.
penalty like there is in cigarettes. So liquor's not that way. People, however, are very concerned about longevity. And people are living my, you know, my parents and my parents' parents, my parents' parents, my grandparents lived to their 70s, 75, 80s. My parents lived to their 80s. People are living longer. And so to live, being alive, and this is going to get kind of kooky, but people being alive doesn't mean living well. It just means being alive. And with all sorts of physical things you can do to yourself between, I'm going to get to your question, between like LASIK and knee replacement and hip replacement, you want to have a better quality of life as you live longer. And part of that is what you put in your body, right? So people will still be drinking, they will still be smoking, they will still be taking tablets or whatever however mushrooms come, pieces of paper, however that works, or acid, any of that shit, right? That is still part of it. But they're moving to all of it in addition. They're not leaving liquor. They're not leaving liquor. Overall, there's a 4.6% compounded annual growth rate in liquor, in beverage, adult beverage. It's growing. The pie is getting bigger. The pieces of the pie are shifting. And so that's what your listeners should pay attention to is that, again, where's the puck going? The puck is going to a consumer that is more concerned about what they put in their body. So kombucha, good gut health. Hard kombucha solves two problems, right? Beverage, you have a sociable thing in your hand. Cannabis beverage, now you've got a good time too, right? So there's all of these things are at play, and the key for any, well, someone like me who's like a professional investor, but others is just to know where it's going, and get out of your own way, right? Don't think you have the answers as a founder. Go do what I do and just stare at a liquor store for 10 hours on a Saturday and watch what people are buying. It's not a great use of time, but and no one in my family likes when I do it, but it feels a little kind of kooky. But do that as a founder. Find out where people are going. When they go into a store, where do they gravitate towards? What are they asking for? What aisle's the busiest? These are key free indicators that can replace Nielsen data at $100,000 a year. You can get real-time, on-time data. And so that's where they're going. They're going to where the puck is.
Do they ever kick you out of stores when you've been snooping around too much? I could see that
Well,
happening.
I always get like, what are you doing? And I say,
Yeah.
You gonna buy something?
yeah, I always buy something for sure.
Yeah.
But I do get a little of that, like, hey, watch that guy in the corner. But listen, what can you do?
Right. No,
You know,
it's funny because no, I mean, sometimes I'll do that sort of stuff. My husband does too. He's an analyst and he covers beverage too. And you definitely have your savvier employees and your employees who don't care and like you said will just vomit R&D all day. But then you've got the people who are on high alert. So I was just curious if you had any funny
yeah. I mean, there
stories.
used to be a time in our stores where this is before camera phones, where my father would not allow photos in the store.
Yeah.
And I would be like, who cares? They're taking a
Yeah.
picture not because they're taking a picture because they like what they see.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to steal our ideas. They're at the store anyway.
Yeah.
And with camera phones, I think people are like, it was a fight that you had to give up because you can't say, don't have your phone out in a public place like that anymore.
Yeah. Totally awesome. Well, that's all I got, unless you guys have anything else. This was fascinating, and I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy it, and we'll definitely see you soon, including at the summit. So,
Yeah,
anything
for sure.
else?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And no, I'm super excited to be on. Thank you. And look, this is what I would say, I guess, in closing. These are generally scary times for brands, for investors, for public companies that have replaced CEOs and stock prices in the shitter and all of those things. Scary times. But the adult beverage category has gone up every year since 1933. That is a fact. And the amount of drinkers against the amount of non-drinkers has remained exactly the same as a percentage of population that it was in 1934. The same amount of people are consuming as non-consuming. It's a linear line. So what people say is, oh, none of my friends are drinking. Okay, that's your friends because your friends are 55 and they're old. But there's a group over here who's drinking more than ever, and it all balances out.
Yeah.
And so, what's the great quote? The news of my death has been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah.
That And that's
Yeah.
exactly what's going on now. So I would tell any listener, just keep plugging away, keep fighting the fight, because pricing will stabilize, consumption will stabilize, and you got to be smart with the brands that are in market. But we're still very bullish on this industry, and we have to be.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, cheers to that, Brian. And thanks again. I'll cheers to you tonight when I imbibe in a full elk
A
beer.
can? Yeah.
A can and a full elk beer, and maybe also an athletic,
As
I always
you
have
should.
4 drinks at a time.
Oh, it's quite a night. It's only Wednesday. Look at you.
Is it Wednesday? What day? I have no idea what day it
It's
is.
Wednesday.
Yeah, it's Wednesday. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right, bye.
Bye.